Welcome to the Bachelor Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Alexander. Joining me today is a very special guest. It's Josh S. Yes, the Chicago lawyer in the making / male dancer that's on this season's Bachelorette. Josh has a lot on his mind to talk about the show, his experience. It's a tell-all interview. He is not leaving anything behind. He is speaking his mind, and this is his side of the story. Here's Josh on my question to him about how he got involved with the show and what the process was like.
Paperwork was out of the way, so after that, I sat tight, and they told me filming would start in the next month, and then about 3 weeks later, they called and asked if they could film an intro for me here in Chicago.
Right, which one we saw on TV, that intro, that like a minute type of intro thing before the premiere, right?
Right, so they said they're only going to do it for like 7 or 8 guys, the ones that had more interesting things to showcase. And they said because I'm a dancer and I went to law school, it'd be interesting to film me dancing and at my law school studying for the bar exam and walking in downtown Chicago. So I was totally up for it. So I was like, yeah, sure, come here. So they flew a crew in and we filmed about a week before I went to LA. We filmed the intro here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of questions, anything crazy that they asked you during this whole interview process? Anything that kind of threw you off or something you didn't expect?
Nah, something I didn't expect was how, I think there was one question out of all the 100 paperwork I filled out, 100 pages of paperwork I filled out, there's maybe one question about whether I was single or looking for a girlfriend. That was it. There was like nothing, it didn't go into great depth about questions that you would expect to be there if you're trying to find your mate. There's way more questions on a dating website than there were on this application. So to me, it kind of was interesting. Most of the questions centered around my personality and what I like to do. So I could tell that's kind of what they put the onus on was personality more so than genuine intent to find love. And
were you looking to find genuine love? Was that your intention going into it, or did you just want to kind of have fun? What was your approach to it?
Yeah, I looked at it. I was not trying to find. To me, the idea of falling in love on a TV show in front of cameras was ludicrous, and that was based in part on the fact that I'd already done a reality show.
Right.
Escape Club, I was on the entire season. I was on every single episode, so I kind of knew how preposterous it was to find love while you're filming, especially if there's 25 guys and 1 or 2 girls. I was just like that. So to me, it was just so far-fetched. The main impetus behind me going on the show was trying to just get more exposure and get my brand out there and get some airtime. So.
Do you think they knew that going into it? Do you think they had a sense for that? That you weren't exactly looking for love like they want you to, or they tell everyone that they're looking for.
You know what? No, because they really never asked questions about it. The first time they really started to ask questions on that topic was when I went to LA. So when they flew me out to LA to begin filming, that's when at the hotel when we did interviews in front of the camera, they were started to first begin asking more detailed questions about dating. And when they asked that, I gave them straight up answers about, well, my ideal type would be this or things like that. But there was no dead giveaway that I wasn't there to find love. And I think it was presumed in kind of an unspoken presupposition that nobody really was that serious about trying to find a mate for life. So I don't know. I really don't think that I was. How could I say this? I don't think that I think they knew that the show wasn't even really that much about finding love, so I was probably just as apathetic towards it as any other guy, so I don't know, it's kind of irrelevant, I don't know, it's hard to articulate, but I don't think they knew.
So, as far as the thing, when did you exactly know that? Did you know who the Bachelorettes were going to be leading up to it, or when you got picked? When was the time where you found out? Was that Chris's season still going on while you were picked already, or?
Yeah, so I think it was the Monday I flew out there was when Chris's final episode aired and when they announced the girls to the world, and that's when I found out in my hotel room that there was going to be two girls and who those two girls were. Prior to that, I had no idea who it was going to be, but interestingly enough, my brother had asked me, or I told my brother and sister-in-law while watching an episode from Chris's season, I said, dude, if that Caitlyn girl, there's something about her I just was turned off by, and I was like, dude, if this girl's the next Bachelorette, there's no way I can do the show. And they're like, no, you got to do the show. You got to do the show. I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, if this girl is the Bachelorette, I cannot force myself to go through with that because I just was not attracted to her. And she was like the one girl I picked out of the whole cast on Chris's season that I was like, she better not be the Bachelorette. And then, of course, it turned out that she was one of two. And I actually thought Britt was really pretty and attractive, and I liked her personality. So I was like, okay, even though Caitlyn's here, at least there's a shot that Britt will turn out to be the Bachelorette, and my time here will actually be kind of fun. So.
What didn't you like about Caitlyn? Was it her attitude or her look? Was it a combination of both that kind of threw you off? Or
yeah, man, I would say both. That's a good question. Just both. There was something about like her disposition that was off-putting to me. Maybe not everybody, but for me and who I am as a person, I was very put off by it. I thought she was like too much of like a guy. She acted
like a guy's girl, kind of like a tomboy type of thing, where she has more guy friends than girlfriends, that type of thing.
Exactly. She didn't really carry herself as a woman. She wasn't very effeminate. She was just like, or feminine. She was just like, I don't know, something about it just didn't sit well with me, and then added to that, physically I just was not attracted to her. So I think those two things combined to make it to where she was just like, I wasn't attracted to her at all.
And what happened when you actually met him? How long did you actually get? Because obviously we see you, coming out of the limo, getting to meet them. But how much time did you actually have spent with them off camera and with each individual girl?
None. They keep you isolated in your hotel room. This time was 5 days prior to filming. We're isolated in our hotel room. No cell phone, no computer, no contact with anyone. You couldn't step out of your hotel room. You literally sat there 24 hours a day for 5 days, except for escorted visits to the gym, which were like 20 minutes long, and then occasional interviews, and then one photo shoot for ABC's official photos that they posted up. Aside from that, we were never allowed to leave our room or interact with anybody or speak to anybody. So my first time meeting the girls was at the mansion on what you saw on the cameras on TV. My first time meeting them was in front of cameras, what you saw on TV, and same with the guys. I didn't meet them until I was actually inside the mansion.
And did you get any alone time that night after you met him initially coming out of the limo inside the mansion? Did you get to talk to him? Which one of the girls? Was there anything that she even had a chance to present herself, get your side out there?
No, you know what? That's a good question, because the first night was actually filmed. We didn't even meet the girls. So what you see on the premiere as all one night was actually split up over 2 nights of filming. So the first night we greeted the girls, went in the mansion, and then we just hung out with the guys the entire night, and then they called it quits and said, all right, everyone's going back to their hotel rooms, filming's done for the day. And then the next day we went back at 7 p.m. and picked up where we left off inside the mansion, and then the girls made their entrance. So we actually had to wait till day 2 of filming before we met the girls.
And clearly what we saw on TV, Caitlyn had that reaction where she was kind of dismissive of you immediately, I mean, and Britt was kind of taken aback by you, but she probably was intrigued, at least, to say the least. So did you think that, that Caitlyn would have such a negative reaction towards you, like immediately almost pegging you? More so than any other guy, it seemed that she immediately pegged you, like, I don't want him, take him away from me, as opposed to any other guy.
Right. Well, what's funny about that is actually Caitlyn who was more into it, at least in real life, than I would say Britt, if I had to compare the two. Britt seemed to enjoy it. I don't know. I can't speak for her. I'm not in her head. But when I did it, Caitlyn was into it, but the way they edited it was to make it appear like she wasn't. So I actually laughed out loud when they showed it, and then they edited out a portion of it where when I take my tie off and put it around Caitlin's neck, she actually took it off her neck, wrapped it around mine, and pulled me in close and started grinding with me. But they edited all that out. So all you see is me wrapping it around her and then I think walking over to Britt or something. And so, yeah, they edited it to make it look like that, and then it cuts to her talking to the camera saying, Britt, you can have them. That was not filmed at that time. That was probably filmed like a week later.
Post, right?
Post that, and they probably fed her that line. Like, they feed most of the lines to people. They probably fed her that line because they had figured out how they were going to edit everything, so they're probably like, okay, Caitlin, for this we need you to say, act like you weren't interested because that's how we're going to edit it to make it appear. But in real life, both girls were like smiling and seemed to like it. I mean, I can't speak for them. Maybe they didn't like it. It was just kind of funny how they edited it.
Yeah, speaking of feeding lines, I mean, that's been talked about for years, that the producers have some say. How much of that goes on, really, or that you've seen or kind of experienced? Actual lines, is it just kind of like, small things, or does it happen a lot? What is that like?
So the lines being fed directly to you that you have to repeat verbatim is more so when you're talking straight to the camera, when it will like cut from the action and then you're narrating as if it's happening right now.
The testimonials, basically, right?
What's that?
The testimonials, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The testimonial part is lots of it's fed lines. I mean, not all of it, but a lot of it is, especially the little quips. Those are fed. Like, Caitlin, you can have them. To just being having been on reality TV before, to me that immediately this strikes me as something a producer fed her. But that the feeding of lines happens more during the testimonials when you're interacting with people and they're filming you. That's more, they'll guide the conversation. Like, what they would do is be like, Josh, you X, Y, and Z. How about you guys go over to the fireplace, sit there, and you guys talk about Caitlin and what it is you do or don't like about her, and what do you think about her dress, or something like that, where they're like very leading questions, and they basically set you guys up in to talk about what they want you to talk about, with who they want you to talk about it with, and where they want you to talk about it. So that happened a lot, more so than Escape Club. On Escape Club, the producers actually were really hands-off with us during when it wasn't testimonials. Like, they let us do basically whatever we wanted and talk to whoever we wanted. Here, it was, I even remember a time I went up to talk to Caitlin, and a producer actually stepped in front of us and was like, hey, Josh, why don't you come here, buddy? I want to talk to you. And I'm like, what? And then when I turned around, they ushered in another guy to go talk to Caitlin in my place. And then I was like, what do you want to talk to me about? And he's like, oh, never mind. And then he was like, oh, it looks like Caitlin's talking to somebody. I guess you'll have to wait. And I was just like, this is shady. I was like, what? I was like, they're like controlling who talks to these girls and when. So that's when I just kind of like gave up. But I did talk to each girl, but they never aired it. So.
Mm-hmm. Anything substantial come out of that, or just kind of just basic introductory talk type of thing?
Yeah, with Caitlin, it was just like rudimentary stuff. We just shot the shit for a few minutes. I mean, she was cool enough. She was easy to talk to. Sparks weren't flying. It wasn't like romantic. But I mean, she was cool enough. With Britt, I definitely felt like a connection. And we talked, and she seemed cool. Like, she talked about deep stuff. Our conversation was, I don't know, I guess I would say a more serious conversation about what our viewpoint on life, our worldview, and how we viewed things, and how we wanted to live our lives and stuff like that. So I had a good talk with Britt and with Caitlin, but I don't think that made the air.
You know what also didn't make the air? I noticed in the episode, you're not featured much. It's almost as if they're trying to pull the camera away from any direction you didn't have a testimonial air on you. Did you even do one of these? Because it appears as if like you like disappeared somewhere and hid in the house. You just never see you in that episode,
Yeah, I actually did, I want to say 8 interviews, pretty lengthy too, at least like 10 minutes. So like 8 different 10-minute interviews, so that's 80 minutes of talking to the camera. I don't think they showed me maybe one time.
Mm-hmm.
When it was the rose ceremony and I said not getting a rose would be a blow to my ego, that was a fed line also that they told me I had to say, because that's not something I would ever say, that something would be a blow to my ego.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of interesting how they just edited it all out and just basically focused on me stripping for the girls, and then tried to make it look like I don't know, like I didn't exist or something. But I mean, that's fine. That's how it is. That's how reality shows are. So they focus on, there's a storyline and a narrative that they want to follow, and I probably wasn't relevant to it after my stripping, and so that's why they didn't show me. So I mean, it's not like I have hard feelings about it at all. That's just the nature of the beast. So.
Right. What were the guys like? Did you interact with any? Did you make any friends in that time you were there, or someone you kind of disliked? And what impressions you had of some of the guys?
The guys were actually cool. I like talking to them. I was impressed with how cool everyone was. There's a few guys that just seem like kind of douchey, but I mean, they might think the same thing about me, but I just had nothing in common with them, so I kind of stuck with the people that I got along with. I thought the dentist guy, I can't remember his name, he wrote up in the cupcake, he was super cool. Joe Bailey was super cool. Jonathan from Detroit, he seemed cool. And then Koopa was a cool guy, so we talked a lot. And then Ben Z, the fitness instructor, he was super cool. So yeah, it was a lot of good guys. I was impressed. They were all down to earth. There's like one or two guys that seem really, really cocky and like, I don't know, just not really down to earth. But I mean, you find that anywhere. But for the most part, the guys it was a good group of guys.
What was the reaction there when Ryan got drunk and stumbled all over, and what was that like? I mean, because it was pretty much him only, it seemed, that got plastered like that.
Yeah, you know what? He was probably the most drunk. I can tell you there's like 3 other guys that were really, really drunk, but it's not that noticeable on camera. But we were spending so much time I mean, the filming was like 13 hours long the second night, from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning. So, I mean, and we're in a pretty small space. In the mansion, we were only filming in part of it. So, there's a few guys, I'm not going to say their names, that were just like really wasted. But, I mean, by far, Ryan McDill was like the most wasted. I thought that he was hilarious. Like, he was funny. Some of the things he said were completely inappropriate. But he was definitely the like comedic relief for the night, and everyone was laughing at what he was doing. I mean, it was hilarious for the most part. But then, I mean, he like slapped someone's ass and like did something else, and then he got kicked out. But he wasn't threatening to any of the guys or anything. It was more just like something that was fun to laugh at. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone took it that, threatening, that they had to bring in like security, and there was no threat of a fight. It seemed like.
No, yeah. Not at all. No, he wasn't hostile.
Right. What were your impressions of the sex guru guy? Did you talk to him?
Was he the Canadian that rode up in a hot tub?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got really drunk. Really drunk. Was actually passed out at one point. Passed out right before the rose ceremony on one of the like one of the seats outside. I mean, but he was nice enough. I mean, he was cool to me. I didn't have a problem with him. I didn't really talk to him that much, to be honest. But he seemed like a cool guy, funny guy.
One guy, it seems, especially Caitlin, took to. I mean, Brady was all about Brit, obviously the songwriter. But the one guy that Caitlin took to was, as I call him, the Ryan Gosling and Calvin Harris child, love child.
Definitely looks like Calvin Harris to me.
Yeah, but he seemed to be like really, really into Caitlyn. He seemed like almost on edge on TV. He seemed like overly focused and serious. How was he? Because it seemed like he was just like all about Caitlyn completely and overly serious too.
Right. Yeah. I didn't notice it until I watched the show a couple days ago, and then I heard what he was saying to the camera about how into her he was. So I was like, whoa! I didn't know he was. Or anyone was that serious about somebody, like, and you haven't even met them. But I mean, if he is, that's great. I wish the best of luck to him. At the time, though, I didn't talk much to him, so I can't say. But I mean, it seemed genuine on camera when he said it. So I guess he's really into Caitlyn. So I guess that's who he probably voted for.
Anyone you keep up still with after a show, or make any friends that kind of lasted off the camera or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't want to say who because, I mean, I don't care. Like, the producers have already threatened me with a lawsuit, and obviously I don't care. So I've been talking to the media. I was on TMZ earlier, the Chicago Tribune. and a bunch of other outlets. But so I don't want to say anyone's name, but yeah, there's a couple guys that I talked to like via Facebook and one through text message, and we're cool. So.
But you don't have really any insight as to like who wins or what happens towards the end or anything like that, really.
Oh no, I don't.
Right. I mean, I'm sure those are available for people that want to figure that out online. It's no secret there. But yeah. I actually read a thing on some website. It might have been one of those rumor sites, but they said that you're in strong consideration for Bachelor in Paradise. Was that ever made aware to you or anything like that?
Yeah, when I got eliminated, one of the producers there, I did a little exit interview before I got in the limo to go home, and they asked, would you do it? And I was like, well, is this an offer? They're like, well, it's a soft offer. Would you do the show, Bachelor in Paradise? And I was like, I mean, I really don't want to. And they're like, come on, you should do it. I was like, I mean, if you guys asked me to do it, I mean, I guess I'll do it. At that time, I'd been up for 24 hours.
Wow.
I hadn't had food in 24 hours. I was exhausted. I was about to go straight to the airport and fly back to Chicago. So I was just like, wanted to get it over with. So anyways, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then I noticed like 4 or 5 or 6 tabloids came out and said that I was in strong consideration or I was part of the cast for the Bachelor in Paradise. But now, like within a week of coming home, I told my friends and family, I said, when the first article came out saying I was going to be part of the cast, I said, there's no way I'll do it because the people get eliminated. And there's no way I would ever do another elimination show where I waste so much time doing something and preparing myself for something and then I just get eliminated within the first few days. So if I ever do reality TV again, it's going to be something where I'm on for the whole season or where it's focused on me or me and a few other people. But I would never do another show like Bachelor or Bachelor in Paradise where there's people getting eliminated every 3 days.
Right.
Because you're missing work, you're flying, you have to pay for your luggage. They don't pay for it. They'll send you a reimbursement a few weeks later, but you have to pay for everything up front. So it's just way too much, and the exposure I would get from Bachelor in Paradise is not much more than I already got from The Bachelor. So it wouldn't be doing me and my career much good to be on it. But yeah, I heard that too. I don't know why they're throwing my name around, but I kept being mentioned in those articles about it. But luckily, they never asked me, and if they did, even if they did, I'm sure they're pissed off at me now since I'm talking to the media. But even if they asked me, I would say absolutely not. It's just not worth my time at this point in my career.
And speaking about talking to the media, is there any threats that they do before you leave the show that they tell you cannot do this or this? Is there any hard stance that they take on you regarding?
Yeah, they basically say that, tell you better don't talk to the media. If anyone contacts you, don't reply. You can't do any shows, any interviews without first asking us, and on and on and on. We own you for the next year, this and that. So I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I went to law school. I have my Juris Doctor, and I just certain things that I knew from the contract that they couldn't enforce, that they were claiming they could enforce. Like, for instance, you can't talk to anyone. Nothing, not even that contract, can trump my First Amendment right to say what I want to who I want. So I already knew that was a lie, and I could talk to whoever I wanted to. Secondly, I knew the liquidated damages in the contract wasn't going to be enforceable because they're almost never held up by courts. So these things that they do to try to intimidate you and threaten you didn't have teeth when it came to me. I wasn't afraid of it. So then they really didn't, so they gave us the whole little spiel when I left, just make sure you stay mum and you don't talk to anybody until the show's over and this and that. But then when, Chris Harrison went on the morning talk show circuit on Tuesday and started trashing me, I was like, well, I'm not just going to sit here and let him spew lies. I'm going to respond. And once I started responding and it started picking up ground and major outlets started reporting on it, then they started sending me threatening messages.
Oh, so you started hearing from him again then after that?
Right. Yeah, I didn't hear from him for like a month, and then they wanted to talk to me, and it was clear from their messages that they were threatening to have their attorneys send me a cease and desist and stuff like that, and it was just obvious to me that they're just scared, and if they were really about it, they would have gotten the attorneys. They wouldn't have took the time to message me. They're just doing it because they knew there's nothing. They're were trying to scare me into not doing the interview I was going to do the next day with the morning show in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on the morning show anyways and tweeted about it and said I was going to talk about Chris Harrison. And then I talked to Chicago Tribune, and they broke a big story, where I talk about how it's disingenuous for Chris Harrison to say that my dance was disgusting or demeaning to women or whatever, because it was the producer's idea that I strip out of the limo. They're the ones who insisted I did it. I was simply following script. So then to later excoriate me for simply following their orders, to me, was a travesty and shameful. So I felt like I had to stand up for myself, and once I did, obviously, then they started trying to threaten me, but it's kind of funny to me. So I got a lawyer, and he okayed everything and said, go do all my interviews, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, and it started apparently with Chris Harrison's blog, because he has a blog over, and he blogs after every episode, and you know what? And it kind of started with, for no reason really, just kind of aiming after you, and it starts out with at first, and the creepiest was Josh S. Like our dancer. It was like quote unquote, and then he says he doesn't care about the fact he's a dancer, and he didn't bother me that he goofed around and made reference to it, but grabbing women's hands to run them over his body was a bit too much,
Right. You know what's funny,
yeah.
though? So I'll make 2 points on that. Yeah, it's very interesting that he said that. One, because it was the producer. They came in my hotel room the day of what was going to be our limo exits when we were still at the hotel, and said, Josh, what's your plan for when you meet these 2 girls? I said, well, I just thought I was going to get out, give them a hug and, introduce myself and tell them who I am. They're like, no, forgettable, boring. And I was like, well, what should I do? They're like, you should strip. I mean, that's what you do. And I'm like, no, come on. I'm not going to strip. I just met them. That's stupid. And they called in another producer. Josh, tell this producer what you plan on doing. I was like, giving the girls a hug and introducing myself. And she's like, boring, forgettable. No, you can't do that. And then both producers were like, see, we both think it's boring. We know what we're talking about. Shouldn't he strip? And she's like, yeah, he definitely should strip. So finally, after like 5 minutes of going back and forth, I was like, fine, okay, I'll strip. And they like started clapping. Yay, this is great. Like, this is going to make such good TV. Like, trust me, we know what we're talking about. So they wanted me to take my shirt off and my pants off.
No way.
And I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. That's like that's something a clown would do. I was like, I'll strip in a classy, tasteful way. I'll unbutton my shirt, and I'll just, rub their handle on my chest or something. But that's the extent of it. And they're like, okay, fine, all right, like a compromise. We want you to do more, but okay, that's all right. That'll suffice. So that's the first part that's funny, that Chris criticized me because it was his producer's insistence that I did that. And then, I can't remember this. Saying like who would do something like that? Like, what guy when he first meets a girl just strips off? That's disgusting.
It's so creepy too. It's creepy was used as the word describing.
Right. Like, some guy that's being told he has to do it by the producers. That's who. So it's just so disingenuous of him to do that. So, and then the second part, the point I was going to make, and then they go and show that the hand going over my chest was on every single commercial, trailer, and promo for the show, and in all the still images for the show for the month leading up to its airing. So for him to act like it was some reprehensible act on my part when it was at their insistence and utilized and capitalized and shown by them in every promo in a good way. It wasn't shown as in like, look at this creepy thing. It was like set to 50 Shades of Grey, and it was like in this very sexual way that was supposed to, make the show look interesting. So then after it airs, for him to go on and act like it was some idea that popped in my head out of nowhere, and it was this vile act. I mean, it was laughable. It was just hilarious.
How much power do you personally think Chris Harrison has? Is he like running the show completely, or his producers basically kind of his minions in a sense? I mean, how much power do you think he really has besides like just hosting it?
I mean, that's all conjecture. I really can't say. I do know that he's like well compensated. That he basically does what he wants. I mean, he's like a prima donna on the set. He would not talk to anyone. People would come up and try to shake his hand. He would literally like shoulder bump them and brush right past them, wouldn't acknowledge anyone. even to like the production staff and people nearby. Just his demeanor and disposition was like off-putting and cold and kind of like rude. Like people would talk to him, he wouldn't even look at them, walk away in the middle of conversations. Like people were like, everyone was just looking around like, dude, like what's this guy's problem? Like, I don't know. But so he's kind of like a prima donna on set. But I mean, he's been doing it for like 19 seasons, so he's probably sick of it by now. But I wouldn't say he's like a minion of theirs, or that he controls them or they control him. It's probably like a symbiotic relationship where he helps the show out because he's well known, and they help him out because they're cutting him a paycheck all the time. So there's probably a little give and take on both sides, but I don't think he's like given marching orders that he has to carry out. I think he's a pretty independent actor when it comes to that whole franchise. So.
I mean, do you think he has any decision in the casting or anything like that of people?
I don't think no. I think there's so many higher layers of hierarchy when it comes to that show. There's like 100 producers.
Wow.
They all have rank and stuff. So no, I think his role is completely divorced from any hiring role or anything like that.
Did you enjoy the producers themselves with your sessions with them? Did you think they were fair to you? And I mean, did you like them just genuinely?
Yeah, for the most part. Man, everybody was cool. I have no complaints. They all treated me well. Everyone was nice. The one person that I do have an issue kind of with is just the person who came and filmed me here in Chicago, the one that was kind of the producer assigned to me, the same one that told me I need to strip out of the limo. Because she came and she was telling me that I was going to make, like, trust me, you're going to go far in the show. You're not going to get eliminated the first rose ceremony, whatever. She kept, like she would bring these things up herself. Like, oh, my God, since I met Chris Soules, there's never been another person that struck me as so interesting besides him until I met you, and I just emailed all the other producers about you, telling you there's something special about you, and I just know you're going to go far on the show, and I'm telling you right now, like, we're not just co-workers or personal friends, and you're my friend, so it's not a business relationship. Like, I look out for you, and I wouldn't lead you wrong. And I'm like, damn.
You just met her, right? I mean,
well, no, you know what? We had spent a long time filming together in Chicago. She was at my place because we filmed there. I drove to every location we shot at and drove her. We ate together. We did, so after 13, 14 hours of filming in Chicago and showing her places and eating with her, she met my friends who were there while we filmed and everything. I felt kind of like a closeness. And then when she was saying this, I was like, oh, well, this seems like a pretty cool chick. And then she told my friends, I'm going to fly all of you out to California while the show's airing, and I want you guys can come out anytime, stay at my place. I'm going to get whoever wants tickets to the, I don't know, Final Rose live show in the Mentel Hall. But, you guys are all going to get tickets. Any friends that you have will get tickets, and I'm going to fly you guys out and you can stay. I'm going to put you up somewhere and this and that. So, my friends were impressed. They're like, wow, this chick's like a cool chick. Like, she's looking out for us. And I was impressed too. Like, and I mean, she was texting them. She had their numbers.
Wow.
So while I was still in Chicago, she was in Cali. She was texting my friends. And so then when I went out there to film, I trusted her because she was kind of my liaison to the show. And she was there during filming at the mansion. And then when I got eliminated, never heard from her again for like 2 months. Never reached out to my friends to, there's like my sister-in-law is a huge fan of the show. Never gave her the ticket she said she was going to give her, just like went AWOL kind of. And I don't know, it's just shady. I can't explain it. I mean, it's just not like if you...
What's the reason of saying that if it's not going to happen? You know what I mean? It's just like a bunch of false promises. Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have to. She could just came here, filmed, and we kept it 100% professional, and then whatever. And so I don't care that I wasn't on the show long, whatever. That's how it is. It's an elimination show. But she intentionally went out of her way time after time to, like, tell me, like, Josh, I'm telling you right now, like, the producers plan on taking you far. You're not going to get eliminated early on. Like, so make sure that you're prepared for this and da-da-da-da-da. So it just really threw me off. And then, my friends are, like, asking what's up with the tickets and why was she, like, texting us and acting like we were best friends, and then she just, like, never responds to us again. And I'm like, dude, that's, like, I don't know. It's just like, why would you do that? It was kind of weird. But so, anyways, besides her, I don't even have anything against her. She like texted me like 5 days ago and was like, I want to apologize for not being a good friend, and I understand that I was basically saying I was shady, and I apologize for it. And I was like, dude, it is what it is. Like, I hope everything works out for you. Like, I'm over it. I'm on to bigger and better things. So.
Maybe she had a thing for you, in a sense. Or no, it wasn't like that. I think she was crushing.
Dude, I don't know. It's kind of strange, but
yeah. I mean, do you think actually that producers do have a say who kind of sticks around or not, or is it completely the girl's decision? Or
I mean, I can't say just from being there, I gathered the producers control everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've spent millions of dollars on this show. I highly doubt they would leave it in someone's hands that they picked to control who goes or who stays when they have like the whole plot and the whole every character outlined and delineated. They're not going to leave it up to like Caitlyn is another one of their pawns that they use, for the show. She's another character, another actor in the show. They're not gonna. That'd be like a producer leaving it up to, or a director leaving it up to an actor to call the shots. That's not how it works. So I highly doubt that Caitlyn chooses which guy stays and which goes. They may come together and decide together who's going to come and who's going to go. But in the end, I'm almost positive the producers control all that. They've spent too much time and money to let one of the contestants pick who's going to go or who's going to stay at what point in time.
And there's always talk about the reputation being important of them keeping someone who actually has a relationship or lasts together. It kind of becomes like bad pub when they break up, whoever picks. So
right.
So that thing too. So they're always kind of in a sense looking for someone that might stick around, the longest.
Yeah, exactly. They have it all mapped out, so they know what they're doing. Again, they might brainstorm together, like Caitlyn, who are the guys that you absolutely don't want to go, and then they'll tell her who's the guys they absolutely want to stay, and then from there they may decide on who to eliminate. But it's not like if they want people to stay, they're going to allow her to send them home. Mm-hmm. So in the end, I'm sure it was the producer's decision to send me home, or maybe hers, maybe both of theirs, but it was the producers who controlled it, which was why it was funny when I walked out of the mansion after being eliminated. I was so shocked, and I think a tabloid said something like I said I was nonplussed. I was shocked that I was eliminated, and not because I thought I was somebody special that needed to be on the show. I was shocked because I just had a conversation with the producer telling me, hey, you're about to go on this rose ceremony. Do not sweat it. You're safe. Winking at me trust me, I know, Josh. So, one of those, trust me, we've already, got it figured out. You're fine. Letting me know it's all going to be okay. So that's why I was in utter shock, because I just had that conversation with the producer. So
that day, right? That day, actually, or that night?
10 minutes prior to the rose ceremony. And it was the same producer who had come and filmed me in Chicago. So when I walked out of the mansion, she was standing there crying. And she was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. And all of us are in shock. And at that point, I was just like, the gig is up. I was like, dude. She's like, are you mad at me? I was like, I'm not mad. I'm just completely and utterly confused. I don't know what to think. I was like, I just want to go home. I was like, I just don't want to be here. So.
You weren't disappointed that Caitlyn eliminated herself, or anything like that. I don't think you were there that much for her, right?
No, right. I had nothing. It was completely divorced from the plot, or Caitlyn didn't give me a rose, or I didn't. It was the fact that they had gone out of their way to make me think one thing, and then another thing happened. So kind of similar to being completely shocked that Chris Harrison goes on the talk shows and talks about how gross it is that I'm stripping, when it was them that insisted that I do that. It was their idea. So it was I don't know.
It's weird that he even brings up your name, especially since, what's the reason even him bringing you up on these talk shows, focusing on that is all the other things he could have been focusing on.
Well, right, yeah, it's kind of like he went out of his way to say it. I don't mind it. It's just my name's being talked about, so that's great for me. So thanks, Chris Harrison, for helping me out, first and foremost. But I don't know. It's just it was disingenuous, and whatever.
To summarize your thing, how do you think is basically, you think it's hard to get on a show like this for someone that's trying to get on or is hoping to get on a show like that? I mean, how would you kind of describe that whole thing about getting on a show like The Bachelor, considering the process and everything? Is this like a manageable thing to do, or it's something?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. I don't know how many people tried out. I'm assuming it was tens of thousands. If I had to guess, it's, probably the biggest reality show on TV. And they're only picking 25 guys, so I mean your chances just in raw numbers are very low. I would say the things that will help you is being very interesting and unique. Almost all the guys on there had really good resumes and curriculum vitae, like they're very accomplished. Almost everyone had graduate degrees. Everyone was fairly good looking. Most of the people had charisma, style, swag, I guess you would say. For me, obviously, what helped the most, I think, was the juxtaposition of having a law degree vis-a-vis the fact that I'm a male exotic dancer. I think that's the same combination that inured to my benefit when I did Escape Club, and I think that's why I got on Escape Club. So for someone to get on the Bachelorette is tough, and I would say you just have to have a rare combination of things. It's a lot of different variables that have to come together, including just pure luck. But for me, I got on, Escape Club and on this all within less than a 12-month period. So there's something there, a combination that's working, an algorithm kind of. And for me, it just happens to be the law degree, and I think the dancing combined with maybe my tattoos or something that reality television likes or latches onto or looks for. But for most people out there, I would say, and number one, just be yourself. They're looking for charismatic people that are unique and just themselves, and they want that to shine through and show on camera, for better or worse. And so you don't have to be a necessarily good guy or a bad guy. I think they're trying to cast both. So you should just be yourself, and even quiet guys. They pick quiet, shy guys around the show. So I'd say just stick to being yourself. That way, if you get on it, great. You know that you stayed true to yourself and it paid off. And if you don't get on the show, at least you were yourself. You didn't try to be something you're not. So,
do you think like your financial status kind of matters too? If you're kind of rich, or you need to have money, or if you're like broke, you're not getting on it.
You know what, man? I would say if you're broke and how broke you are is completely apparent and obvious, then yeah, they're not going to pick you just because this is supposed to be the 25 most eligible man in the world. Do I think it's going to be the final factor, the most deciding factor? No. They just don't. I think you just try to not look super broke, and I think you'll do fine. But for the most part, again, if most of the people are accomplished, then it only makes sense that most are going to have money. So I think those two go hand in hand. So.
Now, as for you final thoughts, anything you have coming up, anything that you're working on so people can kind of check out or look forward to? What's next for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Dancing with the Dream Boys, male review, just like I was doing before the show. We have a show every Saturday at Bevy Nightclub in River North. And it's an awesome show. It's very theatrical, big production. And there's depending on how big the crowd is, usually 5 to 6 dancers, and they all go up and do an act. And it's a fun time. Being a male dancer, we're supposed to entertain the women. You're supposed to make them laugh. They're supposed to have a good time. So most of the acts have some comedy in it. No one takes it super serious. It's just supposed to be a fun time where the girls go out. Analogous to going to see a comedian or a magician or any kind of a performer. You want to have a good time. So it's more about that and less about the sexual aspect. I don't think most girls go to a male review to hook up with a guy or find a boyfriend. They just want to have fun with their girls. So it's really geared towards that and oriented towards that. So it's a fun time. So I do that, and then in 3 days I'm going to be flying out to Vegas on Monday to meet with Men of the Strip, who had the special on E last year. They're co-owned by Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees and Mike Mott's. And so I'm going out there to meet with them and their choreographer, because we've been talking for about 6 months now about me joining them. And the last time he asked me to fly out there to join them, I was actually about to leave to film The Bachelorette. So I said, look, I'm going to film The Bachelorette, and once I come back, I'll join your group. And he said, cool. Not only are we going to have a residency by then in Vegas at one of the hotels, we're also going to film a reality show about our male review, and we need another guy to join, and I think you'd be perfect for it because you've been on TV before and you're a dancer. He's like, it just fits. And I was like, cool. So I'll be flying out there Monday, and hopefully sometime next month I'll be joining them for their male review in Vegas as well as their new reality show. So hopefully people can see me back on the E Network by sometime next summer. So
that sounds promising. What about law? You're still putting that on hold for now, or?
Yeah, I'll take the bar exam if, something with the dancing falls through. At this point, it's hotter than ever, and it's better than ever, and I'm it's kind of a steady climb. So, I have a lot of exposure now, being on national television, 2 times in the last year, and then with TMZ and the tabloids all seeming to, be interested in kind of my story, things are really, really taking off. So for the foreseeable future, I'll probably stick to dancing, but I do have my law degree, and I can always take the bar whenever I want. But for now, I'm just going to focus on dancing. My ultimate goal is to be a host of a show, whether a news show, a talk show, something, a host of some kind. That's kind of where I really see myself in the future. But for now, I just kind of take life one day at a time, whatever it throws at me. I try to go with. It's too hard to predict exactly what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Life oscillates too much for you to make those definitive decisions. So whatever comes my way, I'm going to tackle it, and I'm just going to keep pushing. So
sounds good. And how can people reach you? How can fans get a hold of you? Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, definitely. I am on Instagram as Joshua_Seiter, Seiter. And I'm on Twitter as Josh_Seiter, Seiter. And they can also follow me on Sue, which is the new social media website. It's the fastest growing website in the world right now. So I'm on Sue as Josh_Seiter. And I'm also on Facebook as Josh Seiter. So
there we are. That's all where you can reach you at.
Yes.
So there you go.
Sorry, there's like a fight going on right outside where I'm at.
There you go. Any final predictions on the show? Are you going to be watching it or following it, or no? You're kind of removed from that.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I only watched like 4 minutes of the last episode, and I actually didn't see any of the first episode past my limo exit. I watched that, and then we had a big viewing party at a bar /club, so we were all drinking. So I ended up singing karaoke the rest of the night, and I didn't watch the rest of the first episode. And then I only caught the tail end of Tuesday's episode. So no, I have no interest in watching the rest of the season. But yeah, I wish everybody luck.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining on the podcast. Big things are coming for you. Doesn't mean that you're off the show, that things end. It's just the beginning of everything else,
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like I said, the publicity can never hurt, and being out there, having your name out there, it's always a good thing. So
right.
That's for sure. So definitely much luck to you and your next endeavor and heading out to Vegas and getting all that done. And yeah, so awesome having you on the show. So definitely thanks for coming on and sharing your story with us.
Hey, you're more than welcome, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.